Oh, Daniel-san, do you remember the Cobra Kai motto?
Yes. Strike fast, strike hard, no mercy.
Yeah, sounds just like the Viper that 908 just dropped.
Yep. Instead of roundhouse kicks to the face, it hits unknowns with FTIR and ramen.
Plus, the smart spectral processing, which is everything that happens inside the machine, it sweeps the leg and reads the compound.
It doesn't even wear a black gi or yell at teenagers.
Well, we can make it wear a black gi.
We can do that.
But with or without the gi, it looks kind of badass. It's like having Mr. Miyagi right in your corner.
Right. So check out the new champ, 908devices.com. No mercy for the mystery chemicals. And in 2024, 138 hazmat responders in the U.S. were injured, and that's 138 too many. Your team's mission is clear. Do your job, do it well, get everybody home safe.
But in order to do that, a key component to all this is that you need training that works in the real world, not just theory.
Right. Work with the hazmat guys, a top-rated hazmat trainer by JM Powers 2023, 2024, and fingers crossed for 2025. We're bringing thousands of field hours, cutting-edge equipment, and fully customized builds around your team and your location.
3 steps stands between you and zero injury hazmat operations. 1, call and schedule. Tailor your training plan to fit what you actually need. And then 3, execute the best in-class drills on your turf.
Yep, so slots for Q3 are limited. Rate increases soon. So secure your team spot today and be the first one to know that the Advanced Technical Reference Specialist class is coming out if you're listening this far in.
Ooh. Hey, everybody.
Right. We're back.
We're back. Back with a subject that we hate talking about, but we're going to talk about anyway because we have to, because things are happening and the situations are evolving. But before that, what is new from the Hazmat guys?
Well, you got your Hazard Class with Jake show. Subscribe if you're not. Industrial Strength. They just did an episode last night that kind of blew my hair back, all 6 of them. It was actually a really good one because they were using terms I've never heard of. We also got the happy hour, 4th Thursday of the month, 1 hour chat. Every time you join, you get entered into the scholarship for the Southernmost Hazmat Conference, February 3 through 5, 2026 in lovely downtown Key West.
We've got our summer sale happening. Let's not forget about that, right? You can visit our store on discounts on the books, the Nerds 1, the Nerds 2, building a hazmat team. Are you compliant? Get in on some pre-sales for things like the Nerd game, which is, it's kind of like this training card game. And when you put everything together, you get almost 1 million different scenarios. It's pretty cool. Go check it out. Grant funding. We know everything's frozen. We understand everything's frozen. But at some point, they're going to open up the grant floodgates. And if you want to be part of it, if you want to start to develop a strategy for your grant funding for fire, police, or any other agency that you might be involved with, send us an email, info@thehazmatguys.com, and we'll start setting something up for you.
Yep, and we'll be in Miriam Connect July and Virginia Hazmat in September. So getting to our topic.
Yes. Okay. So there was apparently back a couple of months ago, there was a battery fire in a town which will remain anonymous, and people who remain anonymous, and that there we go. I can talk about it. So their injury report came out, and we're going to kind of read to you and then give you our thoughts on the report. Again, for the most part, we're going to be quoting the report. We are going to leave out the fire department and any names that might be involved. So this is a fire that happened in any town, USA.
Right. So back in May, a firefighter was exposed to products of combustion during a fire involving rechargeable batteries and was subsequently hospitalized because of this.
The firefighters found that the smoldering remnants of the small content fire contained batteries within it. The majority of the fire had been extinguished by overhead sprinklers prior to the firefighters making entry.
And during this salvage and overhaul phase, one firefighter experienced respiratory distress and was transported to the local hospital. So
The narrative.
That's the executive summary.
Quick little summary here. All right, let's go into the narrative. Again, times, places, all left out to keep everything anonymous. The first arising companies entered a 14-story residential high-rise with no visible smoke or fire.
Right. Now, the fire panel indicated smoke and water on the 7th floor, so decently high up, as well as running fire pumps. Interesting. Okay. The incident commander assigned companies to the lobby, fire attack, and to serve as the division supervisor for that floor, the 7th.
Okay, let's break off the quoting for a second. And Bob, you're arriving to this scene based on the information that you have. What is going through your mind? Like, let's think size up wise.
The smoke and the water flow alarms are interesting because if the water flow alarms are going off, that means there's actually water flowing. The running fire pumps doesn't necessarily mean that water is flowing, because I've seen them where they're spinning, but they're not flowing. But if I have a water flow alarm, then I have water flowing.
We've got two different things that could be happening that don't necessarily mean anything unless they're together. You've got the pump that could be running, and water that's actually flowing, because the water doesn't flow unless the actual sprinkler head breaks.
Right.
So when you put the three together, you're walking up into this, you're walking through, you get this information. What are you seeing in your mind as what is potentially in front of you?
It could be a small kitchen fire. It could be a million things. I mean, all it needs to be is enough to trigger the water flow. If it was just a water flow, I'd be like, okay, I think it could be just kids horsing around and they broke the sprinkler. You know, they popped that little ampule in there. But the combo of the smoke and the water flow alarms, I'd probably have a little fire up there.
Okay. But nothing that's out of control because we had no smoke showing on arrival.
Right. I'm not in panic mode.
I would agree with that 100%. Upon reaching the 7th floor, the crews entered a light smoke in the hallway, which was emanating from a door of the involved unit. The sprinkler was activated in that unit. So I think we're kind of approaching, they're seeing what we're imagining that we would see in the lobby.
Yeah. So entry into the unit revealed an extinguished fire, which appeared to have originated from a rechargeable electric scooter and a collection of additional batteries. Now, the IC requested the hazmat unit to respond because apparently batteries are in, I'm going to say, just about every fire department except I think Seattle is a hazmat problem. So
one day it won't be. I promise you guys. One day this won't be a hazmat thing, but for now it is. All right. Quote, the affected batteries were placed in a trash can, submerged in water, and transported via street level via the stairwell.
Without knowing, I'm curious to see how much water, because if it's a scooter, I'm thinking, okay, you put it in a metal trash can. I am double thumbs up on that. Putting water in, again, double thumbs up. I would love to see how strong those guys are, because I'm gonna bet is heavy.
That's a lot of water. I mean, even a 5-gallon bucket, you know, you're going down multiple flights of stairs. That tends to be, right? And then
like what would be 45 pounds?
What would be some of the things there? The buckets in the water. I don't know if the hazmat team did this or if this was a regular firefighter operation. This sentence: the affected batteries were placed in a trash can, submerged in water, and transported to the street level via the stairwell. If it was operations, are they, you know, PPE, like that whole 9 yards? What's the safety stuff involved with that? How are they overpacking it? It just lends to a whole bunch of questions.
I think it's, honestly, I'm not seeing, everything's great. I would do the same regardless. But so after 45 minutes after arrival and during the rehab phase, one member of the fire attack team developed difficulty breathing. On-scene paramedics from the rescued one of their ambulances immediately began treating the member, who was subsequently transported to the local area hospital and admitted for further care. Now, I'm going to go back, and it's a little bit of a cynical Bobby here, but it's May. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying this didn't happen, but if you start seeing an uptick of medical incidences around the Thanksgiving time area or the beginning of the summer, they could go see Dr. Summeroff or Dr. Christmasoff. So, yeah, not saying
Dr. Summeroff's a great Dr. Summeroff's a great guy,
you know, but I've seen I've seen that happen, but okay. Let's get
The remaining members of the attack team were also evaluated at the hospital as a precaution. No members reported any kind of incidences.
So just to, the weather conditions, not that it really plugs in, 64 degrees, so it's pleasant, 6 mile an hour out of the northwest, and they're investigating.
All right, so the injuries. Let's see if this was a Dr. Summeroff or if it was, he definitely went to some great lengths because the member suffered inhalation injuries and was intubated at a local area hospital. Oh,
no. That is...
So he's going great distances to get the Summeroff. Good for you. That's really the member was treated and has since been released. So
okay, good.
We hear this, right? And listen, we are always advocating for battery safety, right? But the one thing we don't want to do is, this isn't false information. I'm not going to say it's false information because it's not. This is what actually happened. However, the conclusion is not necessarily set in stone, right? Like we don't actually know what caused the member to need to be intubated. That could have been a prior medical condition. Could it have been smoke? Could something else have been burning? We had years ago, we had in the Chinatown area a small fire in a kitchen, and they were burning some kind of herbs and incenses, and it caught on fire. And the first 2 units all had respiratory difficulties afterwards. And it had nothing to do with the battery. There was something else burning in the apartment that could lead to that irritation. So while I want to make sure that everybody's like, okay, this is a potential, there's some serious chemicals that are emitted, I also don't want to be like, well, this is now the only reason why shit happens.
Two things can be true at one time. I mean, you could have bad stuff coming out of the battery with those failure gases and at the same time compounded by other things like a synergistic kind of thing. So,
right.
So a couple of things that for review. The main hazard is the inhalation hazard caused by these failed cells, right? When you have the lithium-ion batteries fail, they produce toxic smokes and copious amounts. I think, what is it? It's 2 gallons. 2 gallons of failure smoke per single cylinder.
8 liters of smoke for every 1865 zero battery lit off at full 100% charge. It's a lot. Of that, 48% is hydrogen, which means the other 52% is other crap that could be toxic.
Okay, so you got the juice in there. So they produce toxic smoke. Everybody knows about that. That could be fatal in some concentrations. Truth. The smoke and products of combustion produced by failed cells and modules are made rapidly.
Yeah,
I've seen it very slowly, and I've seen it incredibly fast.
And when it happens fast, it happens far faster than the available time to don the self-contained breathing apparatus, which is what this report is saying, or even your ability to move to another location. That's 100% right. Quote, cells can fail with little or no warning. That's 100% true. We've seen that. When we're doing the demonstrations, we have seen them sometimes ignite on fire with no sounds. We've seen pops, we've seen smokes, or we've just seen just straight up detonations.
Right, with no smoke or anything, just
nothing.
A
just
dazzle.
Boom. Suddenly the cage is gone, and everyone goes and it jumps back. Particular concern during overhaul must be adhered to.
Right, and we said this many times. The fires that we're going to today are very different than the fires we were going to 5-6 years ago. They're completely different. Like I don't think I would not be wearing an SCBA for overhaul anymore if I was still in that zone. But when you have an exposed battery pack module or pack, they can fail in minutes, days, weeks. We're tapping on months at this point. There's a couple of I've heard anecdotally that the record is like 33 days post insult. And this is after a fire incident. So when you're removing the cell from a building, you can't let your guards down. I've heard people using elevators with firefighter recall and sending it down unmanned. I've heard people doing it, manhandling it down the stairs. I don't think there's any hard and fast you shall kind of thing out. I think everybody's just kind of finding their way in the dark right now. Hey, Mike, take a look around and tell me how many lithium-ion battery devices you have around you right now.
Right here on my desk, I've got 5.
Exactly. Batteries are everywhere, as we're talking about in this episode, and every department, including the one we're talking about, is dealing with these things on a regular basis.
Which is why we are thrilled to tell you about a new product that has been proven to limit and control battery fire propagations. It's from a brand called Digio, and they are chock full of hazmat experts who know that there's a better way for us, the first responder, to handle, store, and ship at-risk lithium-ion batteries.
Right. This product will solve your lithium-ion batteries. It's lightweight. It works across all battery types, and we can say it lives up to the hype because we've tested it ourselves.
It's called ObexionFR, and it's part of a 2-part system with a scientifically designed granular, along with a UN-certified pail or drum. More importantly, ObexionFR is proven to reduce the toxic IDLH gases emitted when these batteries kick off, so ultimately it's going to keep your team safe.
Right, so to learn more, go to the hazmatguys.dgeo.com. That's hazmatguysdgeo.com, and check out more.
And as long as we're talking about lithium-ion batteries, we might as well update you guys. We promise to look into a solution for battery fires. And although many companies have presented us with products, there is one that kind of takes the cake for us because it actually showed us that it can extinguish lithium-ion battery fires. It works on multiple classes of fire, so it's not like a one-trick pony. It prevents fire from spreading, which is kind of cool, and lithium-ion batteries from reigniting.
Now, before the social media first to respond guys get out there, the links are in the show notes for UL Class A and B and the BSI for 10 categories, including lithium-ion batteries.
But I can assure you we have put this through our own field tests, and I gotta say we were pretty impressed with the results. Now we suggest you always do your own myth busting. It's available in various options, so it can integrate into multiple processes that you might have, whatever your SOPs are. And you can check them out at Fire Suppression Solutions or click on the show notes. I think one of the personal opinion, not part of the release, you definitely shouldn't ride in the elevator with the battery.
No.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the shall nots. Like, you know, we've seen videos, not firefighters, but civilians in elevators with these things when they go off. It is, you even in bunker gear and SCBA, I don't think, you know, it's like being in a flashover. Being in the elevator, your bunker gear is only going to last so long, and even if you are to live and get your mask on fast enough and that whole 9 yards, you've got some serious burns going on. All right, so quote, regardless of rank, all firefighters must recognize the hazards associated with the battery systems and implement operational risk management principles to mitigate an incident involving the battery cells. The overall priority in the battery system incident is removing the endangered occupants and treating the injured. I think that sounds pretty reasonable. I think we definitely need to add our own, like, hey, we need to protect risk management. We need to protect ourselves. Yeah, that definitely has to be a thought process.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that in today's world, hearing what I'm hearing now, I'd be putting on my SCBA. I hate the, you know, like I've heard the yard breathers, you know, like the guys that put on their SCBA, like when they're turning the corner on the block. It's like, I get right. You can't do it there, but like in today's world, like this is like what would be considered like maybe a food on the stove, something really lightweight. And unfortunately, one of the guys got, you know, a problem with this. So to quote, the presence of batteries in any form should not alter your policies, but you must be aware for the immediate potential for intense fire behavior and inhalation hazards at any time. Yeah, that is true.
That is true. So I want to go back to that initial size up that we were talking about, because I don't think it's unreasonable in that situation, right? Hopefully we all know if you're not a high-rise firefighter in any way, shape, or form, you never take the elevator to the fire floor. So, you take it to floors below. So I think it's completely reasonable to at least make it to the fire floor without having an SCBA on. And even going down the hallway in light smoke condition, I can imagine people would be like, I'm going to hold off a little until we open the door and have an idea of what's going on. But in this day and age, getting back to what you just said, it may not be a bad idea the moment you hit the fire floor to put your mask on before you even know what the conditions are.
Right. I know there's going to be pushback because, we don't have to do this. Come on. This is a reason why maybe you should consider doing this. So, yeah. Because the battery, like, again, they're assuming you're going to be knowing that it's a battery, incident. And yes, when they got in the unit, they did know it. But you can look at a battery and be like, that is a perfectly fine, intact battery. But you cannot tell if it's been insulted. Well, like a lot of times you can't.
And you can't, it's a battery once you're on top of it. Going into the apartment, entering the apartment, doing the search, looking for the fire, looking for victims, you have no idea that there was a battery involved. So you might as well err on the side of cautions. And this is kind of what this bulletin is telling their firefighters. To quote, the following safety considerations should be adhered to by all firefighters. At no time should cells be handled without a tool. And they're not talking about like, the douchebag on the crew. I think they're talking about like a legitimate tool. Firefighters must use a tool or a mega mover to relocate abused cells. I don't know what a mega mover is, but I definitely agree with the tool part. All damaged cells should be considered capable of producing toxic gases and igniting or reigniting after suppression. I agree with that as long as the battery is intact. If you have something that is just shredded apart, it's blown apart, I would venture to say it's very difficult for scrap metal to just reignite. But that's definitely a hazmat technician assessment, not firefighter assessment.
Right. Now, the last 2 points of these considerations are an SCBA must be donned when operating in the same room as an abused cell and when handling those cells. I agree. I 100% agree. But I think one of the things is like, how do you know it's an abused cell? Again, like the visual indication of that might not be evident where you might be like, it's just a box of batteries. And then do we start looking at like Duracells and start splitting it? Well, no, I know that's a, the Everready, kind of, are we start like, I would say batteries.
This is definitely a conversation though, because if you just say batteries, right? I've been on runs. I don't know if you were on the run where it was, there was a fire in the first floor. So the commercial level of a multiple dwelling, and the chief wanted every battery in the high rise taken out because the battery was in a building that was on fire. You're talking like by the time you get to the third floor, people don't even know there's a fire in the building. Nevertheless, going around taking, so there does have to be some kind of a conversation about like, all right, at what point is this clearly not a damaged battery, and at what point do we need to consider this part of the fire scene?
Right. So, and I like that they're saying their policy is not use elevators in one of these operations. I'm okay with that. But this works for a 7-story. What about 70? What about 140? Like, there's no buildings like, yes, there are buildings like that. And, if you have a fire on the top floor, you don't have, 700 feet of rope in your pocket that you can lower out a window.
Yeah, or possibly worse, underground. So now you're 7 stories underground. Like,
and bringing it up.
Right, and you're bringing it up. Like, I'll be lazy and I'll kick the barrel down the stairs and say, "Oh, sorry, boss, that slipped." But I can't do that going up 7 stories. So there's definitely, you got to kind of have an idea. Quote, all firefighters must be aware of the associated risk in encountering incidents involving battery emergencies. All members shall operate in a manner prepared for the potential of a rapid production of toxic and flammable gases involving any type of battery configuration. I agree with that. You don't know whether or not something nowadays is lithium-ion battery. You need to be ready from the get-go because if you find out, the pucker factor happens and then it's too late.
Right. I do like this next one. By increasing the understanding of the cell construction, battery failure, hazards, Responders will be prepared to operate safely and effectively following the SOPs and understanding mitigation factors. I like that because it's education of the product of the container. Means regardless of the environment, you're ready to, you understand how the whole thing works. So generalized battery understanding is good across the board.
Yeah. When we teach these classes, right, because education is insanely critical. So when we teach these classes, we always talk to the departments and the members and be like, okay, like you need to work out how this is going to unfold after the fire's out. And they address that in this by saying, knowing each agency to request, knowing which agencies to request will allow for an efficient response to recover and ensure all involved are safe when dealing with battery emergencies. So which agencies? Are you calling in hazmat? Are you calling in your local Department of Environmental Protection, whatever that might be called, whether it's the health department, the DEP, the DEC, EPA? Who are you calling in? What agencies are coming to help you? This is not a fire department only issue. We cover this extensively in our battery class, and I'm very excited that they acknowledge that.
Right. Now, the next part we could probably skip through because this is like them saying, hey, listen, bone up on these both external and internal type things like NFPA 1500. That's a good one, which is basically about ideal H's and stuff like that, right?
Right. So they mentioned NFPA 1500. They also mentioned NFPA 1981, and they start to dive into a little on their policies for overhaul procedures. So let's kind of see if we can pick them apart and see what we think about them.
Okay. So the training bulletin that they're referring to is specifically about overhaul, right? And they're doing the time and shielding are the best. I like this. This is like the Alara comment. The time, distance, and shielding, right? If you minimize your time, you maximize your shielding, you're going to be able to a good defense about dangerous gases, vapors, particulates, whatever it might be. And the environment directly following a fire should be considered an ideal H and treated as a hazardous environment.
Now they kind of go on to talk a little bit about CO, and yes, CO is definitely released. It's part of the process. If you don't know a ton about CO, go study it. This class, our lectures on the batteries touch on very little about actual carbon monoxide because as a firefighter, we should have extensive knowledge already on carbon monoxide.
And they advocate for mechanical ventilation fans. I would even throw in there hydraulic ventilation. You got some fog lines, even easier to get there to improve the atmosphere, change the air, reduce the levels. More bueno.
Now, this next one, I'm not quite sure how feasible it is, but it says after visible smoke has been ventilated from the building, consideration should be given to shutting down the blowers and allowing the particulate matter to settle for a considerable amount of time prior to fire personnel re-entering the occupancy to conduct overhaul. I don't know if I understand what they're trying to do with this because you're trying to not get dirty, like not for nothing. I'm going in to tear apart a room. I'm having stuff fall all over me. What exactly does this prevent from happening to me?
Good point. I like that. I don't know. They are advocating for gas meters to make sure that you're wearing the right PPE. I like that. And that's for even, post or pre, and I like that.
They acknowledge that turnout gear is a great form of protection for combustibles, both your SCBA as well as your turnouts. Now, they do mention turnouts for skin absorbable. I just want to say that if you're reading this or you're hearing this, bunker gear does not protect you. There's no chemical barrier for skin absorption chemicals. What it gives you is a physical barrier to separate those chemicals and give you some time before those chemicals make their way to your skin.
Now, they did quote out one part in NFPA, which I think this is a great quote. It says, the use of self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, by firefighters shall always be assumed to be in an atmosphere immediately dangerous to life and health. That's IDLH, because there is no way to predetermine those dangerous conditions, concentrations of toxic materials, or percentages of oxygen in the air that exists in a fire environment during the initial overhaul, salvage, operations, or under other immediate emergency conditions involving spills or releases of chemicals other than or other toxic materials. That's from NFPA 1404-4.
So they go on to say in the next little section here, they acknowledge that bunker gear is a moisture and vapor barrier, providing just shielding. They also let everybody know, and this is 100% true, right? Just because you have your bunker gear on doesn't mean all parts of your body are now shielded from any kind of contaminants. Your hood, and if you don't have your gloves on, those are going to give you the maximum amount of exposure to these toxins and the vapors. So while your bunker gear has vapor barriers, your hood does not. Just kind of keep that in mind.
And additionally, they have some internal documentation on post-fire decon.
I like their post-fire decon. If you read through this, one of the things that you're going to notice is that they never talk about like douching guys down with a hose stream. They talk about it. They do the proper decon, which is a light mist, which is going to help compact any kind of particulates, right? That's what we're looking for. And the members shall rinse the SCBA off while they're on air. So this misting and a very light rinse happens while you're on air.
Yep, and then they after that pre-decon rinse, they take off their PPE. And once you do that, you take off your gloves, you take off your put on your EMS gloves to minimize the contact with absorbing through your skin, and you put it all in a trash bag. They remove the contaminant by removing the gear.
Right, not by just dousing the person in water, which only actually drives stuff to the skin faster. This department uses hero wipes, and they talk about them being used after you have taken off your PPE. The face area, the neck area, you want to get those areas that really kind of penetrate. Honestly, the groin area takes in a lot of smoke, even though you're wearing bunker gear. The billowing effect of walking around in the bunker gear pushes a lot of toxins to your groin. So hero wipes are great for your groin.
I like how they are saying that you want to decontaminate these areas by wiping in a timely manner. Yes, time is the key. Reduce the time, and you take away a lot of the dose. So the decontamination of exposed skin is essential safeguard performed to minimize exposure of toxins. Love it.
I think it's a great thing to do, like in reality, on scene. Because if you're waiting to do this by the time you get back to the firehouse, you might as well just jump in the shower. Right. You clean everything off. So these wipes give you the ability to kind of do a quick decon on yourself before you're in the station.
And they want you to basically drive back to the firehouse with your stuff in a plastic bag on the outside of the rig until you get back to quarters. Like put it, whatever, on the top, in the ladder, in the hose bed, whatever it is, and keep it out of the breathing space. I think that's a classy move. So kudos to this department. Sorry to hear about your guy. Glad he's doing all right now.